At Mama's repast, her funeral repast, Emma pulled me aside by the potato salad and whispered she needed me to sign the house over before probate gets complicated. Still had her funeral program in one hand, talking inheritance splits with the other. Her bougie fiancé was in the corner sweet-talking my aunties, getting character witnesses. I recorded every word on my phone. When I played it back at her engagement party, the entire family heard her say Mama would have wanted us to have fun with the money. Girl, the gasps. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to that moment by the potato salad, because that's when I knew my baby sister Emma had lost her entire mind. The house still smelled like Mama Lorraine's seafood gumbo, shrimp, crab, andouille sausage. And here Emma was, makeup perfect, edges laid, whispering about selling it like we were discussing the weather. Shanice, be reasonable, she said, her voice all sugar and spice. The house is worth $545,000. We split it. I get my dream wedding, you get a fresh start. Everybody wins. I looked at her, really looked at her, this 38-year-old woman I'd raised since she was in Pampers, and I didn't recognize her. Where was the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms? Who begged me to braid her hair every Sunday morning before church? This woman standing in front of me, still holding Mama's funeral program like a prop, was a stranger wearing my sister's face. Emma, Mama left me this house for a reason, I said quietly, aware that cousin Diane was 3 feet away refilling her plate with deviled eggs. She knew I'd been taking care of everybody for 25 years while you were out living your life. Emma's smile tightened. So now you're gonna punish me for not being miserable like you? That's real sisterly, Shanice. The word stung because there was truth buried in the poison. I had been miserable sometimes, working double shifts at the hospital, paying Mama's medical bills, showing up to every family crisis while Emma posted vacation photos from Cabo. But miserable wasn't the right word. Sacrificial, maybe. Loyal, definitely. This ain't about punishment, I said. This is about respecting Mama's wishes. That's when Terrence appeared, sliding up next to Emma like oil on water. He was wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car payment, smelling like expensive cologne and entitlement. Shanice, he said, flashing those Colgate white teeth. We're all family here. No need to make this difficult. Emma and I just want what's fair. Fair. That word again, like fairness had anything to do with the 25 years I'd spent being Mama's primary caretaker while Emma was too busy to visit during hospice. I watched Terrence work the room after that, shaking hands with Uncle Raymond, complimenting Auntie Celeste's church hat, laughing at Cousin Marcus' jokes. He was building a case, collecting witnesses, making sure everyone saw him as the reasonable one and me as the selfish older sister clinging to a house she didn't need. My husband Jerome found me in the kitchen scraping plates. You good, baby? He asked, his hand warm on my lower back. She asked me to sign over the house, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. At Mama's repast. Still holding the funeral program. Jerome's jaw clenched. That girl got some nerve. She said we should split everything before probate gets messy. Terrence is out there campaigning like he's running for office. Jerome pulled out his phone. Record everything. Every conversation, every text, every manipulation. I got a bad feeling about this. I should have listened to that feeling. Should have trusted my instinct that screamed danger every time Emma's voice got too sweet or Terrence's smile got too wide. But here's the thing about raising somebody from diapers. You keep hoping they'll remember who loved them first. You keep thinking maybe this time they'll choose you over whatever shiny thing caught their attention. So when Emma called me 3 days later, crying about how she didn't mean to upset me and could we please talk like adults, I said yes. When she suggested meeting at my house, the house Mama left me, I unlocked the door. And when she showed up with Terrence and a man in a cheap suit carrying a briefcase, I knew I'd walked into a setup but told myself maybe I was being paranoid. The lawyer's name was Mitchell, and he had the kind of smile that probably worked on people who hadn't spent 25 years reading between the lines of family manipulation. He sat at my dining room table, the same table where I'd helped Emma with her homework, where Mama and I had shelled peas and talked about life, and spread out documents like he was dealing cards. These are simple estate partnership papers, Mitchell said, his voice smooth as butter. They allow you and Emma to co-manage your mother's assets during the probate process. Very standard. Nothing about this felt standard. Jerome stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, radiating disapproval. Emma sat across from me, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, playing the role of grieving daughter so convincingly I almost forgot she'd only visited Mama 4 times during 6 months of hospice care. "I just think Mama would want us to work together," Emma said, her voice breaking perfectly on cue. "She raised us to be sisters, not enemies." The guilt hit like a fist to the stomach. Mama had raised us to be sisters. She'd made me promise to always look out for Emma, to be the stable one, the responsible one. And here I was, 5 days after burying her, refusing to help my baby sister with her wedding. Terrence leaned forward, his cologne cutting through the scent of Mama's house. That mix of Fabuloso, cocoa butter, and something indefinably hers that still clung to the curtains. "Shanice, I love Emma. I want to give her the wedding she deserves. $69,000 might sound like a lot, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime celebration. Your mother's house would make that possible." "And what happens to me?" I asked. "Where do I go when you sell the house Mama left specifically to me?" Mitchell jumped in before Emma could answer. "The documents don't authorize a sale. They simply establish joint decision-making power. If you both agree to sell later, you split the proceeds 50-50. If you want to keep the house, you'd buy out Emma's share at fair market value." The trap was so obvious Jerome actually laughed from the doorway. "Man, y'all must think she's stupid. Those papers give Emma power to force a sale through the courts if Shanice refuses to buy her out. It's a legal squeeze play." Terrence's mask slipped for just a second, a flash of irritation crossing his smooth features. "This is a family matter, Jerome. Maybe you should let the blood relatives handle it." "My wife is my family," Jerome said, his voice dropping to that dangerous quiet. "And I'm not letting y'all rob her in her own Mama's house." Emma stood up, knocking her chair back. "Rob her? Rob her? I'm trying to include her in something that should have been split from the beginning. Mama had 2 daughters, not 1. The walls of the dining room felt like they were closing in. Emma's voice kept rising, accusing me of being controlling, bitter, stuck in the past. Terrence jumped in, talking about fairness and modern families, and how I needed to let go of old grudges. Mitchell sat there shuffling his papers, waiting for the pressure to work. I almost signed. God help me, I almost did it. The pen was in my hand, the paper was in front of me, and all I could hear was Mama's voice telling me to take care of my sister, to be the bigger person, to sacrifice a little more. Then Jerome's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his whole expression changed. "Shanice, you need to see this." It was a text from Emma to Terrence, sent 30 minutes before they arrived at my house. The preview was visible on the lock screen. "Get ready to watch the saint crumble. She's so guilty about Mama she'll sign anything." The room went silent. I looked at my baby sister, the one I'd raised, protected, loved with everything in me, and watched her face go pale. "That's out of context," she stammered. I stood up. The pen dropped from my hand. "Get out of my house." "Shanice, wait." Emma reached for my arm. I said get out. My voice cracked through the room like thunder. "All 3 of you. Out of my Mama's house. Now." They left, but not before Terrence made sure to tell me I'd regret being so stubborn. Not before Emma cried real tears and called me heartless. Not before Mitchell left his business card on the table like I might change my mind. Jerome held me while I shook, not crying yet, just vibrating with rage and grief and the sick realization that my sister had tried to con me 5 days after we buried our mother. "Record everything," he said again. "Every text, every voicemail, every conversation. You're gonna need it." I didn't know how right he was. Emma's text started that night. Apologies mixed with accusations, guilt trips wrapped in sister talk, promises that if I just signed the papers everything would be fine. I didn't respond. Instead, I did something that felt dirty but necessary. I started recording every phone call, every voicemail, every conversation. Louisiana is a one-party consent state, which meant I only needed my own permission to record. When Emma called the next morning, I hit record and let her talk. "Shanice, I'm sorry you saw that text. I was frustrated, okay? You're being so difficult about this. Mama would be disappointed in how you're acting." I said nothing, just let her fill the silence. "Terrence says we could take this to court, force you to sell through probate litigation, but I don't want to do that. I want us to work this out like family. Just sign the partnership papers, and we can move forward. The papers arrived by courier that afternoon. I recorded myself opening the envelope, reading through the legal language that absolutely would have given Emma the power to force a sale. Jerome's lawyer friend confirmed it. One signature and I'd be locked into a legal battle I couldn't afford to fight. 3 days later, Emma invited me to lunch. I went, phone recording in my purse, and watched her perform for the restaurant. Sweet, concerned, sisterly Emma who just wanted her big sister back. The mask only slipped when I refused to discuss the house. "You're really gonna let your pride ruin my wedding?" she hissed across the table. "After everything I've been through? What have you been through, Emma? Specifically?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Losing Mama. You barely visited her when she was dying." Emma's face hardened. "Because watching people die is depressing, Shanice. Some of us have lives outside of playing martyr." There it was. The truth under the performance. I let her keep talking, let her dig deeper, exposing the resentment she'd been hiding under tears and sister talk. She called me self-righteous, stuck in the past, too stupid to understand that Mama's house was just wood and nails, that real family meant sharing everything equally. By the time lunch ended, I had 47 minutes of audio that revealed exactly who my sister had become. But Emma wasn't done. She went to the family, calling Auntie Celeste, texting Uncle Raymond, posting cryptic Facebook statuses about greedy siblings who forgot what family meant. She painted me as the villain, the selfish older sister hoarding Mama's legacy while poor Emma just wanted what was fair. Some people believed her. Auntie Celeste called me disappointed. "Your Mama wanted you girls to stick together." Cousin Diane stopped returning my texts. Even Uncle Raymond, who'd watched me care for Mama through chemo and hospice, suggested maybe I should compromise for the family's sake. The pressure built like a summer storm in New Orleans, thick, suffocating, inescapable. Emma was winning the narrative war, turning my own family against me while Terrence worked his corporate connections to make sure everyone knew Shanice Broussard was the problem. Then the engagement party invitation arrived. 200 people, Garden District Mansion, 8:30 p.m. next Saturday. I wasn't invited. My name wasn't on the guest list. But the invitation Emma posted on Instagram made sure everyone saw the lavish venue, the designer dress, the fairy tale celebration funded by Terrence's generosity. I sat in Mama's house, my house, surrounded by her things, her scent, her memory, and I understood something bone deep and terrible. Emma didn't just want the money. She wanted to erase me, to take everything Mama left me and rewrite history so that she was the good daughter, the deserving one, while I was just the bitter older sister who couldn't let go. The recording sat on my phone like ammunition. 47 minutes of Emma's real voice, saying things she'd never said in public, admitting she barely visited because dying people were depressing, laughing with Terrence about how easy it was to guilt me, casually mentioning that Mama would want us living our best life, instead of me hoarding memories. I played them back late at night when Jerome was asleep, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest where love used to live. On Friday night, Emma called one last time. "I know you're angry," she said, voice soft and reasonable. "But tomorrow's my engagement party. It would mean everything if you came. Please, Shanice, be my sister." I almost believed her. Almost fell for the performance one more time. Then I heard Terrence's voice in the background. "Tell her we forgive her for being difficult." That's when I knew exactly what I was going to do. I wore Mama's pearls to the engagement party. The real ones, the ones she'd worn on her wedding day and saved in tissue paper for 46 years. I put on my black dress, the one I'd worn to the funeral, and I carried nothing but my phone and my dignity. Jerome tried to come with me, but I needed to do this alone. The mansion was everything Emma had ever wanted. Fairy lights strung through oak trees, a jazz band playing in the garden, champagne towers and ice sculptures, and 195 guests dressed like they were attending a royal wedding. Emma stood in the center of it all wearing a white dress that probably cost more than Mama's last 3 months of hospice care, accepting congratulations like a queen holding court. Terrence was beside her in a custom tuxedo, playing the doting fiancé, already spending money he didn't have from a house he'd never own. I walked through the crowd and nobody noticed me at first. I was just another woman in black, easy to overlook. I found a spot near the champagne tower and waited. The toast started at 9:15 p.m. Emma's sorority sisters went first, sharing stories about college and girl trips and how Terrence was the one. Terrence's groomsmen followed, making jokes about bachelor parties and marriage. Then Emma's maid of honor, some woman I'd never met, stood up with a glass of champagne and started talking about how Emma had overcome so much to find true love. That's when I stepped forward. "I'd like to say something," I announced, my voice cutting through the jazz music and champagne giggles. The crowd turned. Emma's smile froze on her face like ice. Terrence went rigid beside her. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the venue's speaker system, the same system they'd been using for music, and I pressed play. Emma's voice filled the Garden District mansion. "Watching people die is depressing, Shanice. Some of us have lives outside of playing martyr." The crowd went silent. Someone dropped a glass. "Mama would want us living our best life, not Shanice hoarding memories in that old house." Emma's face drained of color. Terrence stepped toward me, but I held up my hand, letting the recording continue. "Get ready to watch the saint crumble. She's so guilty about Mama she'll sign anything." Gasps rippled through the crowd like stones dropping in water. I watched Emma's carefully constructed image crack and shatter, watched her bridesmaids exchange horrified looks, watched Terrence's parents, the ones funding half this wedding, stand up and walk toward the exit. The recording kept playing. 47 minutes condensed to 3 minutes of the worst moments. Emma's real voice saying things she'd never admit in public. Calling me stupid. Laughing about manipulation. Admitting she barely visited our dying mother because it was inconvenient. When the audio finally stopped, the silence was absolute. 195 people stood frozen in the Garden District mansion, staring at Emma like they'd never seen her before. Because they hadn't. They'd seen the performance, the mask, the carefully crafted image of the sweet younger sister who just wanted what was fair. Now they were seeing Emma Broussard, the woman who'd tried to steal her sister's inheritance 5 days after their mother's funeral. I walked to the champagne tower, set my phone down, and looked at my baby sister. "Mama left me that house for a reason," I said quietly. "Because she knew who I was and who you are. She knew I'd been showing up for 25 years while you were too busy living your best life. And she knew if she left you anything, you'd burn through it in 6 months and come crying for more." Emma's mouth opened but nothing came out. Terrence tried to salvage the situation. "This is a misunderstanding, everyone." But his parents were already gone and half the guests were following. I picked up my phone and walked out of that mansion the same way I'd walked in. Alone, wearing Mama's pearls, carrying nothing but truth. By Monday, Emma's wedding was postponed indefinitely. Terrence's parents pulled their funding. His corporate friends who'd been so charmed at the engagement party suddenly had scheduling conflicts. The fairy tale wedding imploded like a house built on sand, and Emma was left standing in the wreckage of her own greed. She called me once more, 3 weeks later, crying and begging and swearing she didn't mean any of it. I listened to her voice, that same voice from the recordings, just wrapped in different words, and I felt nothing. No anger, no guilt, no obligation to fix what she'd broken. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Emma," I said. "But you won't find it in Mama's house." I kept the house, turned Mama's sewing room into a space where I could sit and remember the good times before everything got complicated by money and greed, and people who measured love by what you could give them. Sometimes I still hear Emma's voice from the recordings, playing in my head like a song I can't forget. But mostly I hear Mama's voice from 25 years of conversations, telling me I was strong enough to protect what she died to give me. The house still smells like seafood gumbo and Fabuloso and Mama's perfume. And every morning when I wake up in the room where I grew up, I thank God I learned the difference between being a sister and being a doormat. Sometimes the people you raise become strangers. And sometimes the only way to honor your mama is to stand firm when everyone else is telling you to fall. If this story hit you where it counts, make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Let's show the world how far this message reaches. Sometimes we carry things in silence, but when we speak up, we give someone else the permission to breathe again. We're here to help each other survive the struggle and come out stronger on the other side. So keep your eyes open, trust your soul, and remember that every small step you take is building your legacy. Keep it real out there.